I started when I was 18, and 26 or 27 when I quit, which is about Clayton's 19. He was a couple years old then, so I was probably 18 years ago, 17 years ago. Sport's a little bit different now, but it's mostly about the same. So the bulls they use, anybody guess how much one of those bulls weigh?
3,000.
3,000? Not quite. What do you think? 2,000?
1,500.
They weigh anywhere from 1,200 pounds to 20. The biggest bull I ever got on was 2,200 pounds. Then there were some that might have been a little bigger. 2,200 pounds if your parents drive a small car, is about maybe more than that car weighs. And at 2,200 pounds, they can still, they'll kick up higher than the ceiling. They can jump up off the ground. They're very athletic. They're bred for that. It's called the American Bucking Bull. That's what they're bred to do. There's ranches that raise them, and that's what they're bred to do. They are basically the biggest babies you'll ever see. They are taken care of, and they're actually just they're spoiled. Actually, they get the best feed. They're in group 4. They actually have chiropractors that work on them. Most of their feed is scientifically made, especially for a bucking bull. They're considered athletes in their own right, and they, I've seen them sell for over $100,000. So they're very expensive. They're very, very well taken care of. You don't get to pick your bull; they draw it for you. You enter the bull riding. Your name's on the list. When you get there, you see the bull beside your name that you have to get on. You don't have a choice. Your only choice is to turn him out, but then you have no way to, you're not going to get a paycheck. In some places, you still have to pay your entry fees. Entry fees run between $60 and I have paid as much as $200, but not too many times. Maybe around $60, $100 for your entry fees. The bulls put in the section. The back pin guys, they'll load them for you. They come up the alley, and so at that point, I'm going to show you some of the equipment. This is your bull rope, and this is what you hang on to. They're made right and left-handed. This is a right-handed, that's the way I rode. You can ride right or left-handed. It's personal preference. Most of my buddies rode left-handed. I could never get comfortable riding left-handed. I always rode right-handed. So that's the rope. That's what you're going to hold on to. We'll show you kind of how we put it on. All the ropes, I had to tie this on with string. I usually use a dog collar, but my dog collar broke and I didn't want to just grab one. Does anybody know what this bell's for? Ain't nobody guessed it yet today. What do y'all think this bell's for? What do you think?
To count how long you're on for.
No, not that. It's just a weight. All that does is it pulls the rope off, because if you see, it's open-ended and it goes around the bull's waist. The rope goes around their chest area. You just drop it under them. You pull it under with a chute hook. It's like a big coat hanger looking thing. It just reaches under. You pull it to you. You take your tail end and you put it through there. It's kind of hard to do without a bull. I've told every group, I'll tell you that they wouldn't let me bring one home so I could show you. But anyway, that goes around his waist, and the bell will be under his belly, down there at the bottom. Then you tie it off. It goes in the bucking chute. They will tell you, all right, they'll say you're up next. You sit down, you just climb over the chute, you sit right down on his back. And most of them just stand right there like a puppy dog. Some of them do want to move around and stuff. You just got to sit there and wait on them to finish. They're actually very smart. If he moves around and you get up off of him, he figures out real quick that's all he has to do, and he ain't going to stand still. So, I mean, if you've seen it on TV, you see him jumping up and down and stuff in the chute, best thing to do is just have your buddy hold on to you, make him stop. Yes, ma'am.
How could they feel if you were on? Because you they probably couldn't feel if you're on.
So, a bull, I'll tell you this, that's a good question. They can feel you when you sit down. A bull can feel a fly land on his back. If you ever get close to one, if a fly lands on his back, his skin will vibrate just like that. That's how, so they know you're there. Most of them, though, they just stand there you slide down, sit down. You have a buddy on the outside of the chute or where you're sitting. Usually I'll have a couple of them. And the bull's not standing good, one of them will hold on to you so you don't get pulled down under him. The other guy it's called pulls your rope. And basically, let me get it right here. Oh, come around there. They just pull your rope up tight on the outside, if you can kind of imagine. And your hand's in that handle right there. That's what you're holding on to. They pull the rope up, and you lay across your palm on the inside. You go behind your wrist, and you pull it tight right there, and that's what you're holding on to.
And if you fall off, can your hand get out, or?
Well, it can't. Sometimes it doesn't, but it will. So there's two. Some guys rode, and that's called a pinky wrap. I never did it. I figured I was tough enough getting on bulls. I was never tough enough to do that, because what that did, that basically is like a padlock. If you go away from your hand at all, you're tied to him. It's almost, you're guaranteed it. And that's called getting hung up. And basically, your hand's there, and he's jumping because they don't have an off switch, so they keep going. And you have to get up. You want to get your arm over his shoulder. The bullfighters come in. They have to pull that tail, and they have to pop it out of that so your hand can open up. If you just take what we just call a regular wrap, you can still do that, because you see the block right there. If you go away from your hand and your hand turns, it'll hang in that block. And what it does is you're tied down because you can't open your hand to get out. And again, the bullfighters come in, they'll get the tail. When they pull that tail away, it'll eventually pop your hand open. So I haven't seen it much, but I have seen it a couple times where guys have got their hand turned over so bad that they actually had to cut the side of the rope to get him free. So you can't get tied to them, you can't get loose. I've had it happen several times, and it's not the funnest thing in the world. Yes, ma'am.
Will the bull ever flip over onto its back?
I have seen them do it. Mainly in the bucking chute, they'll try to rear up sometimes. You don't see it much. The worst, most time in the arena, sometimes they will stumble and fall over, but for the most part, they don't flip over. As big as they are, they're actually very athletic and very sure-footed. So when you're on the bull, so you're ready, you got your wrap, you slide up, you get your leg on each side of your rope, and then you call for the gate. You nod your head or say, let's go, whatever. They open the gate. The first move a bull's going to make is up. He's going to shoot up just like that. When he does, you lift on that rope and you reach out over his head. That sounds weird. You say, what? He's coming up. But you reach out over his head, because when he gets right there, he's going to drop. And when he drops, you got to sit back down and pull back up on that rope. If you go back while he's going up, when he drops, you just became a human slingshot. And you're going to get yanked right down on top of his head. Problem with that is, you're coming down, he's coming back up, and you're going to get whacked in the face. I was tall for a bull rider. Most bull riders were about his size. So most time when I did that, I would get hit here in the chest, something like that. I mean, my best friend that rode with me for years, he ain't got no front teeth. I mean, because he was a little bit shorter, and he'd get yanked down on his head, hit him in the mouth. So that's that. The bull rider's going to go straight. They're going up and down, so you're moving. They're going to turn right, or they're going to turn left. When he goes to the right, I was right-handed, that's the end of my hand. You got your foot, you get a hold with your spur, you pick your outside foot up, and you follow him right around, put your foot back down. Your toes is always turned out. The left hand is a little bit harder, because when he goes left-handed, you got to throw your arm back, and then you got to pick it up and drag yourself around. Away from your hand is a whole lot harder, but basically it's all about timing. When the 8 seconds is up, that's how long you ride. I forgot to say that, 8 seconds. 8 seconds is up. The buzzer rings. The bullfighters will come in. They try to get the bull's head picked up, get him to go out. You pull your tail, and you step away from your hand, and just roll off of it. That's if you ride it. Honestly, more times than not, 8 seconds, you don't never get there. I mean, it's a lower percentage. I'm not going to throw a number because I don't know, but it's a lower percentage of 8 seconds versus getting thrown off. And you don't get off into your hand because you're going into your block and it's gonna turn your hand over. You always, if you're getting off on your own power, go that way. Are you showing pictures, Clayton? Okay. All right, so now I got my assistant. I got one more shot of this. So, this is my assistant. This is Willie Everride. He came to help us.
Willie Everride.
She got it, finally. He come to help us today. So this is just some more of the equipment. These are your shafts. For bull riding, they're basically just for show. If you're a ranch cowboy, they have a little bit of different kind of shafts that are made to keep them from getting their legs cut up with the briars and stuff when they're riding their horses or branding cattle, working cattle. These are just for show. I don't even know whose idea it was to ever start wearing them, but that's what we had to wear. They're just loose, and that's all they are, is for show. One good thing for them, I just thought of this. It's not a good thing. If you see these shafts right here, you're on the ground. I had this happen to me bad one night. The bull actually got his foot and held me down by my shafts, and then just beat me up for a little while. So that's about the only thing my shafts ever did for me. So they're not. If I had a choice, I wouldn't even ride with them, but kind of had to. This next one, this is your vest. It's like a bulletproof vest. If any of y'all ever see the movie 8 Seconds, it was about Lane Frost. He was a world champion bull rider. He got killed in Cheyenne, Wyoming, because a bull stepped on him. Well, actually, the bull didn't step on him. He hit him with his horn. But it lacerated, it broke his rib, and the rib bone went into his heart. So his best friend invented this vest. Very similar to a bulletproof vest. I get asked all the time, will it stop a bullet? The answer to that is no, but it's similar to that. It has a padding inside, and basically if you get stepped on or a horn hits you, it deflects the force. Spreads it out, and so instead of having one, because remember we said these bulls could weigh up to 2,200 pounds, if he's fully extended, his feet will be up above that ceiling. If you were standing beside him and looked up, his feet would be above that ceiling. When those feet come down, if you're under him, you got a hoof about that big, and it's going to come hit that, and it's going to deflect it. I don't know where you are in your science, but 2,200 pounds coming down, that's a lot of force in the exercise.
That's probably close to 20,000 pounds of force
Yeah.
coming down.
A lot of force coming right down on your back. So you just wear that. In the front, you'll see that it velcros and zippers. You see you've got Velcro on the shoulders. The reason for that Velcro on the shoulders is sometimes you get off, you're trying to get away. Some bulls know the difference between a bullfighter and a cowboy. And I've had them shove a bullfighter out of the way to hit me. So he's got you down, he's hitting you with his horns. They can't get a horn up in here. And so this would tear away. And that would keep you from being like a human shish kebab going around the end of his horns. So that's all that is. Fits pretty snug, and you can take it and get it pretty hard. It doesn't hurt anything. All right, so the next thing, I never rode one of these. This is a friend of mine because I know they have to wear them today, but this is it's a Bauer helmet. It's made for bull riding. They are required. I can tell you, you're young. I've probably had, I don't know, 5 or 6 pretty good concussions. Don't do it. Wear your headgear. Just when you get old, you'll thank me wherever I'm at. So this helmet is made for bull riding. If you notice, the first thing you notice, or you might not notice, but if you knew, these holes are smaller than a standard hockey helmet or catcher's mask. Reason for that. When they first came out with them, that's basically all they were. These are pretty much the same, just to protect your noggin. When you're riding a bull, if you watch a bull, they're throwing their head, they're looking this way, they're doing that way while they're bucking, and you're getting yanked around. You get in a bad spot, you get pulled down over his head, he throws his head back, and I've seen this happen. These things weren't small enough, the horn would go into that, whoops, I think I just poked his eye, and that could happen. Or, the horn gets, then you're stuck. And I actually saw a kid get yanked around the arena by the front of his face until the thing broke. Now, these are designed with breakaway straps now. They're a whole lot better. If that one was to get something in there, this stuff would break away. You probably would take a pretty good yank, but you wouldn't be stuck to him for 30 seconds. they're real good protecting their head. You see there, if you look, see, it doesn't hurt him. He's good, he's strong, and he's ready to go to the next one. But I always tell people, if any of you guys said, hey, I want to start riding bulls, you'll be required to wear these. When I was riding bulls, you were required to wear these. I never wore a helmet. Like I said, my short-term memory is not very good. Yes, ma'am.
How did you practice?
Did you practice? You had to just get on bulls. I don't know if any of y'all know Jerome Davis or have heard of Jerome Davis. He was a world champion. He got his neck broken. He's paralyzed from the waist down. Actually, I work for him on the weekends. Work on him for the weekends and help him with his bulls. But Jerome would bring in a bunch of bulls, and we'd go down there and get on them. Sometimes we get on 5 or 6 a night. That's how you practice. That's really the only way to practice. But that's what we did. So that's the helmet. Again, if you guys are riding, it would be required. The last thing, these are your spurs. They go on the end of your boots. These are actually not mine, they're my buddy's, but his are turned in. Mine were a little bit straighter. I didn't like them turned in so much because I didn't use my feet as much. I used my knees more because I was taller. They're not sharp. People think, oh, that's mean they're sharp. A bull's hide's about 5 or 6 times thicker than yours, and it's loose. They're not, doesn't hurt them. I'll demonstrate on Hunter again because I like to. You watch that, see? I just rate them pretty good. And if you had decently hydrated skin, you wouldn't be able to tell it. So I do them on here, you do them on your hands. It doesn't hurt. They're locked in with a coat hanger. So when they don't move because you couldn't get a hold if you were trying to move. And so, for instance, he's got your rear back. You're going this way, you can catch that spur and actually pull yourself back to the middle. That's what they're for. They help you keep pulled down. I was terrible for it. I didn't use my feet very good, but if you do it right, that's what these are for. The bulls, their hide's thick. That's what I've told every group. If you don't keep these things dulled down, if you cut a bull, you have to pay the vet bill. They'll come find you, say come back here, and you cut my bull. The vet will come out. They'll put an antiseptic on it. He'll put stitches or whatever you need, and you got to pay the bill. So I didn't have enough money to be doing that, so I made sure mine weren't sharp at all. I've only seen a couple of times that's happened. Those bulls, like I said, most of them, people kind of intimidated by them. They're big, they got big horns, but most of them, but they're actually big. Most of them are just like I said, they're like big dogs. They know their deal. They're spoiled rotten. They live out in the pasture for 3/4 of their time. The rest of the time, they go to the bull ridings. They're fed the most expensive hay. The feed is scientifically made for them. Minerals, vet care, and if you think about his alternative, he can live, 15, 20 years and die of an old age, or he can be at McDonald's. So they get a pretty good life versus a regular cow that you see standing on the side of the road. And like I said, they're just, most of them, they know their job better than we do. Any questions?
I can tell you one thing, and I say this every year. I've done some crazy things, but getting on the back of anything that weighs 2,000 pounds and can throw his back feet higher than this ceiling, it's not going to happen.
What was the worst injury you've ever gotten?
So I had I was trying to think of it. Like I said, probably the most long lasting